Thank you, Karen, for going to the church to give us the comfort of seeing that beloved place. Give me a wave if you can hear me this morning. Oh my gosh, it makes me so happy to see all your faces. Good morning to all of you. This is our second Sunday service using Zoom, and since the first one went so perfectly, I fully expect technology to be fussy today, and if it does, that is okay. If Zoom gives you trouble, attempt to log back in, and if that doesn't work, you can still watch on YouTube right now, or we'll post a recording later. If Zoom breaks under the strain of Sunday morning services, then Jesse and I will work with Reverend Cynthia to make a recording that we'll post later. A few other announcements before we begin being reverent together and apart. Our website, NashvilleUU.org, is more important now than ever. That's where you can go for updated information of all sorts, to watch the service after it has been recorded, to find a link to Breeze for contact information. It's also where you can sign up to share your volunteer services for other church members who might need help. And we have a survey you can fill out to help us get feedback about virtual services. Please know that your donations matter now as much as they ever have. You may continue to mail paper checks, but it's even better if you set up your donations through Breeze to be automatic. You may talk to Jesse or Kristen or me about that option if you aren't sure how to do it. Most importantly, a reminder that although we are practicing physical distancing, we are even more connected than ever before, and none of us are alone. Our amazing pastoral care team and our fantastic minister have a list of volunteers ready to deploy as needed. The contact information for Cynthia is on the screen. I am Jenny Gimignani, your service coordinator for today. We are on Zoom, we are live streaming on YouTube, and we're recording our service to be posted to the website later for those who aren't able to be with us now. We are a 21st century congregation for sure. I'd like to welcome any visitors. I'm not sure if it's braver to walk into a new building for the first time or to join us here when you never know when the cat will walk across the keyboard. So great job finding your way to us. At the end of the service, after our final music, the Zoom room will be open for any and all who would like to continue chatting after the service. But during the service, this is a beautiful work of art in progress. The congregation is muted to allow comfort for all of us as we focus on the person speaking. We aren't able to hear each other sing, but we'll still be able to sing wherever we are. And finally, I have to tell you how much joy it brings me to see your faces. Thank you for making this effort to dial in, or to call in, or to watch this later. It heals my heart so much. And so let us worship together. As this time has shown us, the people in this congregation, we have a bond by choice. This covenant that we have chosen and written together reconfirms that choice. Please say it with me at home if it has meaning for you. We covenant together to make a welcoming community, to walk together in the way of truth and love, to support each, to seek the life of the Spirit as it is known by each person, to support each other in thought, word, and deed as we work to build a better world. We'll now have the music playing for Now Let Us Sing. Our fantastic music director, Fran, recorded the piano music for this for us, and you'll be able to hear that music. So everyone will be muted, so sing as loud as you want while we all sing together Now let us sing. And now we get to hear from Reverend Cynthia with our Time for All Sages.
All this about masks. Are you hearing all about masks? Are we supposed to wear masks? Oh, not this sort of mask. Okay. This is the mask we need. And this is Sandy wearing the mask. But actually, we don't need them. You may already know this. The doctors need them, the nurses, the ambulance drivers need them, and they don't have enough. Guess what? Some of our GNUUC members are making them for the doctors and the nurses and the hospitals. Because that's what you do in hard times. You help out. And Rachel Sumner, Charles Sumner's daughter, she's been coordinating the efforts for mask making. And Sandy, Jane, Teresa, Arlene, and anybody else who's making masks that I didn't mention, raise your hand. This is what the masks look like. And sometimes they look even fancier. When we go through hard times, people pitch in, especially when the whole community or the whole country, or right now, the whole world is having hard times. And people like us, do things to help others, even help people they don't know. Back during World War II, which was even before I was born, and my kids think I was born, you know, in the dark ages, but during World War II, there were hard times. People had to pitch in to make the things that were needed for World War II, for the soldiers, for the army, and also just for here at home. This was a famous poster, you might have seen it, and it's of a woman called Rosie the Riveter, actually a real woman who posed for it. And what it was all about is that women who back in the first part, the 19th century, didn't usually work outside the home. Even women who were homemakers or usually worked at home had to go to work in factories. And it was a big deal. And they had to convince people to do it, just like, you know, we have to convince people to socially distance from one another. I was thinking about what I could do. I don't have a sewing machine, and I don't think I would make very good masks. Anyway, I'm in Kentucky, so it's even harder for me to think about what I could do to help things in Nashville, where our congregation is. And so I kept thinking about our young people in the congregation, and I just wanted them to know that the church and I are thinking about them and loving them. So I made up care packages that I sent to the families who have children who are active in RE. It had some candy that I got from the Amish store. It had some bird feed. It had some drawings of Unitarian Universalist Zentangle. You can look that up if you don't know what Zentangle is. But if you're one of the children in our congregation who got these packets, I hope you liked it. And it also had a note from me to you, telling you that I love you. So what I think was going on is not just product. I mean, when we had the masks, they were a product of people's work, and they're an important product because they're needed. The things that I sent to the young people in the congregation probably weren't needed. They might already have had, colored pencils, but that was the process for me of choosing things, getting things together, writing the letter, packaging them, that helped me feel the love that I have for them and their parents and all of you. Here's Helena. She's not even a child anymore, but she got a package, and she had the small Rubik's Cube that I sent them. And I guess she has a large Rubik's Cube too, but she sent a picture to show us that she solved both of them. I don't know about you, but I don't even have any luck solving one Rubik's Cube. How did she do that? Think about what you might do, how you might reach out to other people. You can do things to help, but you can also do things just to let people know that you still love them and you can't wait to be with them again. Okay, we're going to have a time for meditation. And I'm just going to ask everyone to take a moment, let your breathing settle down, except for the people who are helping me run this program, who will probably cannot take a moment or let their breathing settle down. But just be still. Don't think about anything. Don't plan anything. Don't do anything for these few minutes. I will end the meditation with the sound of a singing bowl. This is a poem from Rumi. Oh soul, you worry too much. You've seen your own strength. You've seen your own beauty. You have seen your golden wings. If anything less, why do you worry? You are, in truth, the soul of the soul. You are the security, the shelter of the spirit of lovers. O Sultan of sultans, of any other king, why do you worry? Breathing in, I feel hope, I feel love. Breathing out, I let go of worry. Breathing in, love. Breathing out, worry. In, love. Out, worry. You can even repeat that to yourself as you breathe. In, love. Out, worry. a little bit more from Rumi. So this is love, to fly toward a secret sky, to cause 100 veils to fall each moment. First, to let go of life. In the end, take a step without feet. To regard this world as invisible and to disregard what appears to be the self. Heart, I said, what a gift it has been to enter this circle of lovers, to see beyond seeing, to reach and feel within the breast. So I thought I was going to speak to you today about creativity. And if you read the blurb or the description, you probably saw that. And also my invitation to you to take a quiz about whether you are a cultural creative. In actuality, I knew what the answers would be. I knew that all or almost all of us would qualify as cultural creatives. The question, I thought, was how can we access that well of creativity during these times of isolation and suspension of routines? How could we exploit our creativity that we already have to keep us occupied as well as to help others? Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher and existentialist, wrote this: "There may be more beautiful times, but these are our times." I love that. There may be more beautiful times, but these are our times. The question or so I thought was how to manifest that, how to live so that we look back on these times, these hard times for many, and say, oh, it was good. In spite of the tragedy, we grew, we changed, we discovered a deep well of inspiration and creativity. We gained in wisdom. It even goes along with the March theme for our sermons and services. So I thought I would start on this talk about creativity by telling you a story about the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lexington's jail ministry. For many years, we visited the women's section of the local detention center, offering readings, meditation, prayer, discussion. And one Christmas, we got permission to have a party. We were allowed to bring in music for dancing and some pre-approved food. But when we got there, we found out the women had decorated their common area with wreaths, snowflakes, paper stockings, and more. They did all this using soap, toothpaste, toilet paper, feminine products, and sheer ingenuity. I remember thinking, wow, if these people even applied half the creativity they put into criminal endeavors, into positive efforts, they could cure cancer, they could solve homelessness, maybe even save the world. It's kind of a Republican thought that I was having, but there you have it. How can we use adversity to engender creativity even in hard times? I thought that was the question. And also, you don't have to wait for wisdom to be creative. You just need to tap into your creativity, your innate resources, release it, and wisdom will follow. But I had the wrong question. I felt so much unease with what I was going to talk about and so much confusion during the week. I finally realized it wasn't the right thing for me to speak about. Yeah, some people will become more creative, more resourceful, if only because we're deprived of many of our sources of distraction. If Netflix goes away, then we'll really have time to ourselves. But many of us will also turn inward. Some of us will suffer fear, anxiety, trepidation, if not for you, for someone you love or someone you don't even know. At the same time, Seth's school is creating a 5-day plan of exercise for kids. I told him about it when I heard the phone message and he just left. He's walking 24/7. Okay, well, not 24 because he does sleep, but he's walking around in his counterclockwise circle more than ever. That's what he does when he's anxious. He doesn't need exercise. He needs his life to resume. I heard on the BBC that Ivy League colleges and universities are offering free classes. You can learn a language. But I don't need to learn a language right now. I need to learn to be still and to find a way to endure. I need a language of love. First, to let go of life, says Rumi. In the end, to take a step without feet. Gradually, I started turning off all these things. They were coming at me like I said to my husband one day, it's like a hurricane of things coming at me and ideas for things that we can do. I didn't need any more ideas. So I stopped ingesting every internet urging to read, to watch, to exercise, to listen, to engage. It was becoming overwhelming. I needed to enter the space of uncertainty and find a place to be. And I needed to minister to you from that place. Ministers are not meant to be cruise directors. Ministers are meant to be spiritual directors. So finally, I realized the question isn't about doing. It's not about doing more, but it's about doing less. Not about doing, but about being. Being in spite of it all. Not learning, but understanding. Understanding this question: how can we live with uncertainty? Rumi wrote, "This is love, to fly toward a secret sky, to cause 100 veils to fall each moment." The question isn't what we can make or watch or create or, how thin we'll be, but what meaning we make of suffering. And the theological question is suffering always redemptive? So we're aware that Easter's coming. And for Christians, the Easter story is that Christ's suffering had a purpose. Its purpose was redemption. Redemption for all of humanity, forgiveness of sins, and resurrection. Clearly, in 2,000 years, no one has gotten up and walked around after dying, with the possible exception of Elvis. Since you're in Tennessee, you may believe he's still alive. And of course, zombies. Even mainstream Christians have moved away from a literal reading of the Gospels. But although the story at the heart of Christianity is apocryphal for us, it has been the guiding story of the faith that most of us either grew up in or grew up around. But it's also at the heart of recovery from addictions. It's at the heart of many movies, much music, a lot of art. It's a particular story of Western culture, the Christian story of redemption, but it's also the story of humanity. In Buddhism, the teachings about suffering are at the core of the Four Noble Truths. In fact, that's what the Four Noble Truths are. It's a lesson on suffering. Just a minute. dukkha, in the first noble truth, is often translated as all of life is suffering. But that's not really the correct translation. The correct translation is actually, there is suffering. There will be suffering. Not everything is suffering. There is suffering. But there is an end of suffering. Escape from samsara, from the repetitive, endless wheel of life. The end of samsara is conditioned upon living a life of self-discipline, self-awareness, and gradual enlightenment. So that's 1, 3, and 4. But I skipped 2. The second noble truth is tanha. Tanha means grasping or desire. So we have, there is suffering. The cause of suffering is wanting, is desire. It's basically is addiction. The third is there is a way out of suffering. And the fourth noble truth is the way out is to follow the Noble Eightfold Path. And then you go on to right living, right speech, and so forth. I hope some of you remember or even have read not so long ago the wisdom books of Carlos Castaneda. Carlos Castaneda was a professor who went to Mexico, and he met a sorcerer whose name was Don Juan Matus. He died without telling us whether this really happened or whether it was something apocryphal, like the Christian story. But anyway, the wisdom that came from Don Juan, however it came to Carlos, has been treasured for decades now. Don Juan Matus, the sorcerer, was not Buddhist. He was not Christian. He was probably, according to our evangelical sisters and brothers, practicing some kind of pagan witchcraft. But he told his student, Carlos, if we were to reduce our wants to nothing, the smallest thing would be a gift. So that does tie into these other stories. It ties into tanha, which is the source of suffering, wanting. So can we reduce our wants to nothing? We can, and we do finally at the end of life. He told Carlos also, you must disrupt the routines of life if you are to be a warrior. Just as the predictable routines of animals allow them to become prey, he said, so ours keep us imprisoned and unenlightened. I don't think that's true for Seth or many people on the autism spectrum, and many other people who need some routine, some order. Either way, our routines have been disrupted for us, whether we like it or not. Somehow I got to thinking about the Chilean miners, and I looked up the story to refresh my memory. It was 10 years ago that those miners were trapped 2,000 feet underground for 69 days. They would, at the beginning, they had to go through the rations very slowly until some food could be sent down. They ate 1 teaspoon of tuna every 2 days. They did not emerge with great musical compositions or works of art. They did not create masterpieces of literature, but they created something even more enduring. Comradeship, community, selflessness, and humanity. They could have chosen inhumanity, but they chose compassion over competition. They literally rose from a death trap, kind of a modern day resurrection. Those miners made meaning that transcended suffering. Yes, great artists often are those who have suffered, but real suffering almost always stifles creativity, at least while we are suffering. It would not only be wrong, but cruel to encourage you to become more creative, to do more and more things, when you may simply be numb and feeling despair. And it would definitely be wrong to encourage you to use toilet paper to make Easter decorations. We don't have to induce suffering. From start to finish, there will be suffering. There is suffering in life. From childbirth, through illness, accidents, separation, death, loss of loved ones, grief, pandemics, natural disasters, hard times. But as humans with agency, we have the ability and really the obligation to suffer mindfully and with dignity. To not carry our suffering around like a wet blanket or a cudgel to beat other people over the head with, but to examine, to make meaning of, and finally, accept our portion of sorrow, grief, and anxiety. This pandemic has been revelatory for many reasons. The suddenness with which it occurred is like a sudden death, especially for those who have lost a family member, but also for the 1 out of 4 workers in this country that have lost their jobs. I've witnessed it firsthand with Marjorie, my daughter, who lost a very good job. But it's also revelatory because it goes everywhere. You can't run away from it. It knows no boundaries, national, race, creed, caste. It's taken in famous monarchs, leaders of countries, to the most desperately poor among us. Chances for wisdom for all. Will we take them? It is never sufficient to say that all things happen for a reason. In fact, it's unsound theologically. But it can be said without hypocrisy that we can be the arbiters of our suffering. It's we who will decide what, if any, meaning comes from this pandemic. What will be created, not just products, but the process of creation. What new wisdom will emerge? Will compassion trump creativity? Sorry for throwing Trump in there. I was definitely going to keep him out. Remembering that creativity is much more than we often ascribe to it. It's not just visual or musical or written products, but it's the way we live. It's how we engage. And it's how we learn, by living, to die. Death is always there, even when there's not a disaster or a pandemic. It's just out of sight, just beyond our reach. That's what Don Juan says. But sometimes it breaks through our illusions and reminds us what's most important. And I believe this is one of those times. It's not the most beautiful of times, but these are our times. To regard the world as invisible and to disregard what appears to be the self. What if it's not creativity, but compassion that comes from hard times? This book I've been reading, I mentioned it on my little video the other day, A Fine Balance. The line from which the title is taken is about halfway through the book. Says one student to a friend, It's a fine balance between hope and despair. So just a word about hope. From whence comes your hope? Is it from witnessing and reading about or hearing about acts of immense kindness? Does it come from stories? Does it come from poetry or music? Does it come from humor? We don't have to laugh at those who are suffering, but we laugh along together. It might come from your own memories, the history that you know of your family or the history of this civilization, the moral arc of the universe. But it should come from your chosen faith, your community. Hey, Unitarians are already the people who can live with uncertainty. That's one of the things I liked best when I first became a Unitarian Universalist, living with uncertainty. And cultural creatives are also people who are able to live with uncertainty. Heart, I said, what a gift it has been to enter this circle of lovers, to see beyond seeing itself. But hope will always come from or with, alongside love. It's not a desperate hope. It's a hope fueled by love. Because there's also a fine balance between love and fear. The opposite of fear is not courage. The opposite of fear is love. And where love is realized, there will be no fear. You don't have to do all the things or listen to all the things. Just be still. Be still, let it be, and listen for love that dwells within you. And I'll share a poem that our Fran sent to me, bringing me hope. It was when the tears finally broke from me when I read this. Just a short little poem. And then the whole world walked inside and shut their doors and said, we will stop it, everything, to protect our weaker ones, our sicker ones, our older ones. And nothing in the history of humankind ever felt more like love than this. So may it be. Good. We're going to hear the song called Hard Times Come Again No More. And try and sing along with the chorus if you'd like. It's a song written by Stephen Foster during other hard times, the mid-19th century, beloved by the Irish and known the world round. But it's about how those of us who are really privileged compared to the most destitute can exercise compassion during hard times for those who have less.
we can go ahead and start joys and concerns. Jesse, if you'd like me to wait. Let's go ahead and start joys and concerns. Thank you everyone for your patience. Reverend Cynthia, that was wonderful. Thank you very, very much. To honor each person who would like to share a joy or concern today, we'll begin with the folks who are using video. What we're going to try is if you have a joy or concern to share, when I tell you it's time, you'll raise your hand and I'll call on a person. We'll unmute you and give you a chance to share. After all the folks who are here on video have had a chance, we'll transition over to any folks who are calling in who would have something that they would like to share. Thank you for your patience and your loving attention to each other. Will you please raise your hand for me if you have a joy or concern you'd like to share? We'll start with Dina.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I'm so happy to see your faces. I miss you guys so much. I have a joy and I suppose a little bit of a concern. My joy is we got Mom moved into McKendree over in Hermitage yesterday. It was a almost last minute change where we had heard that there was a possibility of Tennessee going on a complete lockdown. So we had changed the move from Wednesday to Saturday. So got people together as quickly as possible. Thank you, Karen and Carter, so much for stepping out and coming into this scary place right now with COVID and helping us move Mom and Laurel too. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention Laurel. Super appreciated. My concern, of course, is having access to Mom if we do go on a lockdown. She's loving her new home. She's happy where she is. So that's the good stuff. Anyway, thank you very much.
I like
Karen.
this candle in recognition.
Go ahead, Karen.
I light this candle in recognition of your joy. Thank you.
Susan is next. Did you get her? Got her. Go ahead, Susan.
Oh, I was just waving to Thina. I was giving her a thumbs up.
That's worthy of a joy and concern. That's fine. Anyone else who actually has a joy and concern to share, raise your hand for me, please. We'll go with Jane. Thank you, Jane.
Hi. A concern, I have not seen my husband for almost 3 weeks. His facility is on lockdown and it's just very difficult. We talk a number of times a day, but it's just not the same. So that's my concern. And then I just wanted anyone who feels at a loss of how they could help in some way. The Red Cross is in desperate need of blood. If you go to redcrossblood.org, you can set up a time to donate, and they're practicing social distancing and good sanitary procedures. So I encourage anyone who would like to do that to consider it. And I'm done.
I light this candle in recognition of your concern. Thank you, Jane.
Raise your hands, please. Anyone who'd like to go next? Michelle. Michelle.
Hi. So you can see my puppy. She had emergency surgery yesterday. I have meditation stones on a small table, and she really likes them. And so apparently she swallowed one and had to have it removed yesterday.
Oh gosh.
So she's recovering, and we're recovering here on a blanket that was made for me by the GNUUC Rainbow Kids when I was in Kentucky. And she and I fight over this blanket all the time. So thank you.
What's her name, Michelle?
Sophie.
Get better, Sophie. Thank you, Michelle. Raise your hands, anyone else?
I light this candle. Michelle and Sophie and the blanket.
Teresa. Teresa. Quit unmuting.
Hello. Well, I made it through the surgery and I've got a really big foot now and ankle. And we just wait and see what happens. Hopefully, whatever, if it's an infection or whatever, they can solve what's going on and stop the bone loss that I have. And so I'm done, complete, no weight on the leg, back to where I was 7 months ago, 8 months ago. But it is such a pleasure to see everybody's face. I just love all your faces and happy to see you guys, every last one of you. So bye, love you.
I light this candle for you, Teresa.
Larry. Larry.
Yes, I really didn't have too much to say. I was waving just to say hello. It's, I appreciate, I'm having the joy of the fact that I'm somewhat, there's an introverted part of myself that seems to work with this whole business fairly well. And I enjoy going out and riding my bike, and I'm doing very well. I'm concerned, but I'm doing pretty good. That's my.
Thank you, Larry. I light this candle for your joys and concerns.
Susan Dreamer.
So I wanted to thank Reverend Cynthia. So Lily is working on her coloring. We're sort of rationing it out. And being able to stay home with her, this is sort of a hidden joy because, as I told a colleague, as a single working mom, that hasn't really been on the table very much. So now it's mandated, and everything that I do can pretty much be done from home. So I'm still giving tests and one of the things I noticed is that the students have been really eager to log in and connect during this time. And so I think it is really important to be able to connect. And I really appreciate everything that the GNUUC is doing to keep those connections.
Light the candle for you, Susan, and for Lily, and for the joy of connection.
Anyone else on video? Yes, Whitney, welcome.
Hi, my husband John and I are virtual visitors, and we're in Paducah, Kentucky. So we're your neighbors, about 2 hours to the north, and we're joining in because Reverend Cynthia was our minister when we lived in Lexington for several years, and she dedicated both of our children, who are now almost 17 in a week or so, and 14, and it was just really wonderful to be able to connect with the Unitarian Universalist community. Again, we don't have that here in Paducah. Our closest congregation is in Carbondale, Illinois, which is about an hour and a half drive for us. And so one of the nice things about this situation is some of our Unitarian congregations are now online, and we've been able to join in, and it was just really wonderful to get to hear one of Cynthia's messages again and to connect with some like-minded people. So thanks for letting us join in.
Thank
We're
you.
oh, sorry, Susan, go ahead. I mean, Karen.
I light this candle for you, Whitney, and for
Thank you.
Paducah. And thank you for joining us today.
Thanks.
Amen. Marisha, were you waving? Okay, it's good to see you anyway. Bob.
Yes, Song and I are doing well. And we're learning how to exercise and cook at home. And we're doing very well. We miss you all. Miss getting sharing stories. So thank you for putting all of this together for us.
Thank you, Bob, for joining us today. And I like this candle for you.
All right, my friends, I'm looking for any last. I saw your hand move, Miles. I almost called on you there. All your faces make me happy. All right, those of you who do not have video, we're going to unmute you. And that would be Bonnie, Jennifer, Albert, Elizabeth, Charles, and somebody on a Galaxy phone. If any of you have something to share, oh, Fran.
Nope, not today.
All right, we're glad to hear from all of you. And then Karen, if you'll light one last candle for any unvoiced joys or concerns. All of us are holding so much right now. Please know that you are not alone. But I won't cry anymore. We've done enough of that for today. And now, please join me in singing along at home. Remember, you are muted, so you can sing as loudly as you want to. Spirit of Life. If the music doesn't work, then Thina will do this as a solo and we'll sing along with her. Let's give Jessie a second. We'll see if it'll work. And now Reverend Cynthia with our benediction.
Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. At first, I want to thank all of you for being here, sometimes making a little extra effort to understand the technology. Seems like we'll be using it for at least several weeks. I really want to thank Jessie, Jenny, Karen, Sandy. I'm always afraid by saying names, I'll leave someone out. Nathaniel, Kristen, and Chris, and Kristen, Chris, and all the Chris's for making this service. They have really worked more hours than I did, I think, on putting it together. It ain't easy. And I also want to say, Whitney, if you're still here, so good to see your face. I'm glad I didn't see it or see that you were here, because I would have been crying. I miss you guys so much. And even though your kids have gotten to be 17 years old, you don't look a day older, but you've always been beautiful. So glad you could join us. This is, these are some closing words. I chose them from John O'Donohue, Anam Cara, A Book of Celtic Wisdom. May you recognize in your life the presence, power, and light of your soul. May you realize that you are never alone, that your soul in its brightness and belonging connects you intimately with the rhythm of the universe. May you have respect for your own individuality and difference. May you realize that the shape of your soul is unique. You have a special destiny here, that behind the facade of your life, there is something beautiful, good, and eternal happening. May you learn to see yourself with the same delight, pride, and expectation with which your inner parent and with which is wisdom sees you in every moment. Amen.
And now, please join me in our closing words. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in and among us now and always. Amen. And one final song to close things out.
Oh, we ain't got a barrel of money, maybe ragged and funny, but we're traveling along, singing a song, side by side. Oh, we don't know what's coming tomorrow, maybe it's trouble and sorrow, but we'll travel the road, sharing our load, side by side, through all kinds of weather. What if the sky should fall? Just as long as we're together, it doesn't matter at all. When they've all had their quarrels and parted, we'll be the same as we started, just a traveling along, singing a song, side by side, through all kinds of weather. What if the sky should fall? But just as long as we're together, it doesn't matter at all. When they've all had their quarrels and parted, we'll be the same as we started, just a traveling along, singing a song, side by side, just a traveling along, singing a song, side by side.
And now everyone will be unmuted so that you might enjoy time together in coffee hour. Thank you so much to Fran. She made her way to the music school, to video and or to audio tape, a variety of songs for us, and she did a fantastic job. Thank you, everyone, and enjoy your time until we see each other again.